Bigfoot domain of Jacksonville to Orlando Backwaters in Florida. America's Sasquatch Chronicles Chapter 1. An unsettling discovery, a sharp sound punctured the serene silence of the Floridian backcountry. Birds took to the skies in a frenzied escape, their wings a cacophony of sudden movement. The harmony of nature was abruptly shattered, replaced by an atmosphere that promised nothing but tension. Omar Jofier's white-knuckled grip on the car's steering wheel was testament to his anxiety. As he navigated the rugged mountain path, each bump and jolt only served to heighten his unease. By his side, Loletta sat, her gaze fixed on the view outside, attempting to discern familiar landmarks amid the thick foliage. The path opened up to reveal the family's cherished mountainside cabin, or at least, what was left of it. The quaint wooden structure that once stood proudly, holding countless family memories, was now reduced to chaos. Windows were shattered, doors had been violently unhinged, and furniture lay scattered in the surrounding clearing. Yet what caught the Jofiers' attention wasn't just the destruction, it was the sheer size of the footprints left behind in the mud. Good heavens, Omar, what on earth happened here? Loletta's voice wavered, her emotions a cocktail of shock, grief, and disbelief. Omar, trying to process the magnitude of the damage, whispered, "It looks like a storm hit, but those footprints." Exiting the vehicle, the couple tentatively approached the cabin. The footprints that littered the perimeter were unmistakable, vast, deep, and with the distinct shape of a humanoid creature, only much larger. Bigfoot? Loletta breathed, unable to mask her rising panic. But why? We've never seen any signs of them before. The inside of the cabin mirrored the exterior. Torn fabric, scattered personal belongings, and remnants of shattered glass littered the floor. But among the disarray was a peculiar sight. On the living room wall was a hastily drawn image, smeared as if done with a muddy finger. It depicted a tall creature, surrounded by trees, with a strange, star-like symbol above its head. Before either could comment on this oddity, Loletta's cell phone buzzed to life. Recognizing the caller ID as her sister's, she hurriedly answered. "Letta, I just saw the news. You need to contact Tom Law. He's an expert on, well, everything related to Bigfoot." Her sister's voice was frantic and rushed. Loletta, her heart racing, replied, "Sis, slow down. Why Tom Law? We aren't even sure what happened here." "Trust me," her sister interrupted. "If those creatures are involved, he's the one person who can help. I've seen his work up in Patterson and other parts of the country. He's your best bet." As the call ended, Omar approached with a grim expression, holding up a locket, Loletta's grandmother's, handed down through generations. It was open, displaying the old photograph of their ancestors, but the adjacent compartment, which held a lock of her grandmother's hair, was empty. "This is no random act of vandalism," he murmured. The couple exchanged a glance, the weight of the situation pressing down on them. They had not only lost their cherished retreat but were also thrust into a world of enigma, where myth seemed to merge with reality. Reaching a silent consensus, Omar declared, "We contact Tom Law." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting elongated shadows across the clearing, the Jofiers set out on their mission. Little did they know that their beloved cabin was just the prologue to a series of events that would challenge their understanding of reality and thrust them into the very heart of America's Sasquatch Chronicles. Chapter 2. Arrival in Florida. Tom Law's motorcoach rumbled along the uneven path, causing its occupants to sway side to side. The beastly vehicle, designed to navigate the roughest terrains, housed state-of-the-art equipment, making it an essential part of Tom's operations. Behind the motor coach, a rugged Hummer followed closely, loaded with additional tools and supplies. Inside the motor coach, the team was abuzz of activity. There was Terrence, the tech-savvy genius who manned the drones and monitored infrared sensors. Mia, with her background in anthropology and knowledge of native lore, was often the voice of reason. And then there was Ricky, the youngest of the team, brimming with energy and optimism, often seen jotting notes for the team's documentation. All had grown close under Tom's leadership, having faced unimaginable situations and confronting the unexplained. As they neared the Joffier cabin, a collective gasp echoed. The destruction was far worse than what they'd imagined. "Looks like a hurricane came through," Ricky commented, eyes wide. Mia, inspecting the giant footprints, frowned. "These tracks. They're too deep. It suggests a creature of considerable weight. But the pattern doesn't suggest the usual Sasquatch gait." Terrence, already unloading the drones, said, "I'll get an aerial view. Maybe we can spot something the Joffiers missed." Parking the motor coach proved a challenge. The only available space was directly opposite a rowdy biker gang clubhouse. The loud revving of engines, blaring music, and shouts painted a picture of wild revelry. Tom, aware of the potential for confrontation, ordered, "Let's keep a low profile. Our work here is sensitive enough without any additional disturbances." However, within minutes of setting up their base camp, a group of burly bikers approached, their leather jackets emblazoned with a flaming skull insignia. "You lost, city boy?" sneered the tallest one, his beard long and peppered with gray strands. Tom, always the diplomat, stepped forward, extending a hand. "Name's Tom. We're here on an investigation, won't be causing any trouble. Thought we'd park here temporarily." Another biker, his eyes hidden behind dark shades, snorted, "You're on our turf. No one parks here without our say-so." Mia, sensing escalating tension, interjected, "We've got some advanced equipment on board, including drones. Perhaps we could assist you with some aerial surveillance of the area in exchange for parking here?" The bikers exchanged glances, intrigued. The leader, now identified as Hawk by his jacket patch, said, "What kind of surveillance you talking about?" Terrence, seizing the opportunity, replied, "High-resolution imaging, infrared for nighttime. We can be your eyes in the sky, so to speak, as long as we're here." Hawk's gruff exterior cracked a smile. "All right, city boy. You've got a deal. But remember, you cross us, and it won't be Bigfoot you'll be worrying about." With the immediate threat diffused, the team quickly established their operation base. Tom organized a meeting inside the motor coach, laying out their plan. "We start with a thorough analysis of the cabin's surroundings. Those footprints are intriguing, but there's more to the story. Mia, focus on any local tales or legends. Ricky, help Terrence with the drone flights." The night drew in, and the forest around them hummed with life. As they worked, the distant roar of the bikers' engines and the soft glow from the clubhouse served as a reminder that in these woods, the known could be as unpredictable as the unknown. As the night deepened, Tom stared at the cabin, a myriad of thoughts racing. The journey ahead was filled with potential threats and revelations. But if there was one thing he'd learned over the years, it was that the truth often lay hidden, waiting for those daring enough to seek it. Chapter 3. An unexpected alliance. The following morning, as the Florida sun cast its golden hue on the dense tree line, the team commenced their investigation. The roar of bikes from the clubhouse nearby had subdued, replaced by curious stares from the bikers, intrigued by the equipment Tom and his team were unloading. Ricky was preparing a drone for flight when a husky voice called out, "Hey, kid. You fly that thing?" Ricky looked up to see a heavily tattooed biker, younger than the rest, his gaze fixed on the drone. "Yeah, this little gadget gives us a bird's eye view of everything." The biker grinned. "Name's Dex. Used to fly drones in the army. Mind if I have a look?" Ricky hesitated, then handed over the remote. Dex took control, maneuvering the drone with a surprising grace that belied his rugged exterior. Watching the exchange, Tom approached Hawk. "Thanks for giving us some space. We promise to respect your territory." Hawk smirked, his eyes darting to the drone Dex was now expertly piloting. "Seems like you've made a friend." Dex doesn't warm up easily. But when he does, he's loyal to the bone. The two groups found themselves in an unexpected camaraderie. The bikers were awed by the team's cutting-edge equipment, while Tom's group learned about the bikers' intricate knowledge of the terrain. As the day progressed, the bikers began helping the team, offering to be ground support during drone flights, pointing out lesser-known areas, and sharing stories of unusual occurrences in the woods. As Terrence and Ricky collaborated with Dex on mapping areas for surveillance, Mia approached a group of bikers huddled by their bikes. "Any of you heard legends or tales about creatures in these woods?" A grizzled biker with a long scar down his cheek chuckled. "Legends? Honey, I've seen things in these parts that'd give you nightmares." Mia's interest piqued. "Such as?" The biker, known as Rattlesnake, leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Once saw a creature, tall as two men, covered in hair, walking on two legs. Thought I was dreaming, but my pal here saw it too." He nudged a fellow biker, who nodded solemnly. As dusk approached, Tom spotted something familiar, a cigarette butt, the brand Franklin smoked. His gaze shifted and caught a fleeting shadow lurking on the perimeter of the woods. Franklin was here. He beckoned Terrence. "See if the drones caught anyone tracking us. I have a feeling we're not alone." Scanning through the footage, Terrence's face turned grave. "Got him. About half a mile west from here." "It's Franklin." Tom cursed under his breath. "He's like a bad penny, always turning up. Keep an eye on him but stay discreet. He mustn't know we're onto him." Nightfall saw the bikers and the team around a roaring bonfire. Stories of close encounters, eerie woods, and the mysteries of the region flowed, blurring the lines between folklore and fact. The bikers, initially skeptical, now viewed the team with respect, ensuring their equipment was safe and their camp secure. As the night deepened, Hawk approached Tom, handing him a cold beer. "Never thought I'd see the day when my boys would bond with city folks over Bigfoot tales. But here we are." Tom chuckled. "Life's full of surprises, Hawk. Sometimes, the most unexpected alliances are the strongest." Hawk nodded, his eyes scanning the woods. "You and your team are all right. If you ever need backup, you know where to find us." Tom clinked his beer can against Hawk's. "Same goes for you, Hawk." Under the vast starry Florida sky, two worlds collided and coalesced, forming bonds of trust and mutual respect. Yet, in the shadows, lurking threats from familiar foes reminded Tom that the journey ahead was far from straightforward. Chapter 4. Warning from the unknown. Tom had hardly closed his eyes when the soft trill of his phone broke the early morning silence. Groggily, he picked up, squinting at the caller ID. It was an encrypted number, one he hadn't seen in years. "Hello?" Tom whispered, stepping away from the sleeping figures of his team. "Tom, it's Jasmine," came the familiar voice, tinged with an urgency Tom hadn't expected. "Jasmine? It's been years. What's going on?" There was a brief pause. "I had a vision, Tom. It was about you and your team." Tom stiffened, remembering Jasmine's uncanny abilities. Ever since they'd met during an investigation in the Pacific Northwest, Jasmine's intuitions had proven uncannily accurate. His visions, as he called them, were something out of the ordinary. The very thought sent a shiver down Tom's spine. "What did you see?" Tom's voice was hushed, the weight of the past pressing in. "The deep swamps. You and your team. Danger everywhere." It was unsettling. Jasmine's voice trembled slightly, betraying his worry. There was a landmark, very distinct. 3 cypress trees, arching together, with bright red ribbons tied to them. "If you see it, Tom, don't go any further." Tom's mind raced. The Florida backwaters were riddled with swamps, and cypress trees were common. But the red ribbons? That was unusual. Why? What's there? I couldn't see clearly. But the emotions, Tom. Fear, danger, desperation. It was overwhelming. I felt compelled to warn you. Tom took a deep breath. "Thanks, Jasmine. We'll be cautious. And thank you for reaching out." As he ended the call, he felt a presence beside him. Turning, he saw Mia, her face a mask of concern. "You okay?" she whispered. Tom nodded, relaying Jasmine's warning. The gravity of the situation settled on Mia. 3 cypress trees with red ribbons. Got it. But how seriously should we take this? Visions aren't exactly tangible evidence. Tom looked out at the slowly lightening horizon. Jasmine's visions have been accurate before. We need to be careful. As morning broke and the team gathered, Tom relayed Jasmine's warning. Terrence looked skeptical. "We're taking advice from a psychic now?" Ricky, ever curious, countered, "It's not about belief. It's about being aware. We've faced inexplicable things in the past. What's the harm in being cautious?" Mia, taking the middle ground, added, "We don't avoid the swamp. We just tread carefully. And if we find those cypress trees, we reassess." The day progressed with meticulous drone surveillance. The team split up, with Terrence and Ricky focusing on the north while Tom and Mia surveyed the south. By late afternoon, they had mapped a significant portion of the area. Ricky's voice crackled over the radio. "Hey, Tom, we've got something you need to see." Arriving at Ricky's location, Tom's eyes widened. Before them stood 3 cypress trees, arching towards each other, their trunks adorned with striking red ribbons. A tense silence fell upon the group. The ribbons fluttered eerily, their crimson hue stark against the green swamp backdrop. The very air felt charged, laden with a sense of foreboding. Mia, breaking the silence, whispered, "This can't be a coincidence." Terrence, gazing at the trees, added, "Looks like our psychic friend might be onto something." "What now?" Tom took a deep breath. "We set up cameras. Monitor from a distance. No one goes near until we know what we're dealing with." As the day turned to dusk, the team kept a vigilant watch on the cypress trees from their motor coach. The eerie red ribbons seemed to glow, casting odd shadows on the swampy waters. Hours passed with no activity. Just when the team was considering packing up, a blip appeared on one of the monitors. A figure, humanoid but larger, moved near the cypress trees. Its motions were hesitant, as if it too sensed the foreboding associated with the area. Tom leaned closer, capturing the footage. "Is that a Bigfoot?" Mia finished for him. "But why is it here? And why is it so apprehensive?" The creature lingered for a moment before disappearing into the dense foliage, leaving the team with more questions than answers. Tom sighed. Jasmine's warning was right. There's something about this place, something we don't understand yet. The team decided to spend the night, continuing their surveillance. The swamps of Florida, they realized, held mysteries beyond their understanding, and they were on the brink of something monumental. All Chapter 6. The Jacksonville survey. The sun hung high over Jacksonville, casting the vast expanse of Florida greenery in sharp relief. Tom and his team had positioned themselves at the outskirts, intending to launch a comprehensive drone survey. Their gear was laid out meticulously, testament to the precision and gravity with which they approached their mission. Terrence, manning the main drone console, began calibration. "You sure this is the right area?" he asked, adjusting the drone's infrared IR sensors. Mia nodded. "The locals have reported multiple sightings in this zone. If the Bigfoot clans are active here, our drones will pick them up." Ricky chimed in, "Yeah, and after that cypress tree incident, I'm curious to see what else we'll find." Mia launched the first drone, watching as it soared gracefully into the sky. Within moments, the monitor came to life, displaying aerial footage of Jacksonville's dense wilderness. Terrence directed the drones towards the reported hotspots. Within an hour, the IR sensors lit up like a Christmas tree. "Guys, we've got multiple hits. Bigfoot signatures, and plenty of them." On the screen, several glowing IR signatures indicated the presence of Sasquatch individuals. The team counted over 100 distinct signatures, dispersed across the area. Jacksonville was, without a doubt, a significant Bigfoot hub. As the team tracked and documented each signature, a strange anomaly caught Mia's eye. "Hold on," she said, pointing to a particularly intense IR signature that dwarfed the others. This one wasn't moving and appeared far larger. "What is that?" Tom zoomed in, revealing an oddly shaped object, blazing with heat. But before they could get a clearer look, the IR signature went cold, then blinked out entirely. Ricky looked perplexed. "Did it just disappear?" Terrence shook his head. "No. It went cold, then vanished. The IR signature didn't move. It just ceased to exist." Tom mulled over the data. Could it be an equipment malfunction? Mia was quick to counter. "These are military-grade sensors, Tom. They don't just malfunction." Ricky, always eager to delve into the inexplicable, ventured, "You remember those reports about UFO sightings in the Pacific Northwest? Could this be? Quote. Tom silenced him with a look but couldn't hide his own intrigue. "Let's not jump to conclusions. First, we verify." The team decided to conduct a visual inspection of the area the following day. They downloaded the drone footage and started preparing for a ground expedition. As night fell, they huddled around their campfire, reviewing the data. "It's bizarre," Terrence said, watching the IR anomalies replay. "This isn't natural, nor does it fit any known biological entity's thermal patterns." Mia added, "It's not just the thermal pattern, it's the size and the sudden disappearance. If it were a creature, it would have moved, but this just blinked out." As the firelight flickered, casting eerie shadows, Ricky voiced what was on everyone's mind. "Do you think we're looking at something extraterrestrial?" Tom sighed. Look, I'm a man of evidence. What we have here is an anomaly, something we don't understand. Whether it's extraterrestrial or something else entirely, we can't say. But I won't dismiss it. We'll investigate this with the same rigor we apply to everything else. Terrence nodded. Agreed. Tomorrow, we go in, see what's there. But let's be careful. If this is indeed something beyond our understanding, we need to tread lightly. The night deepened, the vast Florida wilderness echoing with the sounds of nocturnal life. Inside the motor coach, the team tried to rest, but the day's discovery weighed heavily on their minds. They were on the brink of something monumental, something that could change the trajectory of their entire mission. The night was punctuated by a series of strange dreams for Tom. Visions of lights in the sky, figures not quite human, and the haunting image of the 3 cypress trees with red ribbons danced in his subconscious. The line between the known and the unknown blurred, leaving him restless and anxious for dawn. By first light, the team was ready, their gear packed and spirits determined. Whatever awaited them in the Jacksonville wilderness, they were prepared to face it head-on. And as the first rays of the sun painted the Florida skyline, the mysteries of the previous day beckoned, hinting at revelations that could shake the very foundation of what they believed they knew. Chapter 7. The Orlando Mysteries. The team's motor coach rumbled towards Orlando, leaving behind the dense canopy of Jacksonville. The change in scenery was evident. The further south they went, the more waterways intersected the land, creating a vast and complex network of aquatic environments. I've heard tales of aquatic Bigfoots, Mia remarked, staring at the shimmering lakes and canals. They say some clans have adapted to these wet terrains, using them for stealth and food. Ricky scoffed. Aquatic Bigfoots? What's next? Flying Sasquatches? But Terrence, usually the voice of reason, wasn't quick to dismiss Mia's claims. Every species adapts to its environment. If they've been here long enough, it's plausible. Tom nodded in agreement. Let's launch the drones. The IR signatures won't lie. As the drones took flight over Orlando's outskirts, the team settled into their familiar roles. Terrence manned the controls, directing the drones over the many waterways, while Mia and Ricky kept a close watch on the monitors. It didn't take long for the infrared cameras to pick up on something remarkable. Just as Mia had speculated, there were Sasquatch IR signatures, not only on the land but within the waterways as well. Some appeared to be waiting, while others seemed submerged, save for the occasional head or limb breaking the surface. Look at that! Mia exclaimed, pointing to a cluster of IR signatures congregated around a deeper part of a lake. They're fishing. Using the water to corner fish. Terrence adjusted the camera angle, capturing the scene in greater detail. It was undeniable. A Bigfoot clan, working cohesively, driving fish into a natural trap using their sheer size and intelligence. They're not just using the water for stealth, Tom mused. It's also a source of sustenance. This changes everything. Ricky leaned in, inspecting the monitor. The waterways provide them not only food but an escape route. They can dive in, disappear, and re-emerge miles away without being detected. Mia added, it's the perfect hide-and-seek terrain for them. The dense aquatic vegetation, the myriad channels and lakes, they can move stealthily and rapidly. As the day wore on, the team documented numerous instances of aquatic Bigfoot behavior. They observed them constructing makeshift dams to catch fish, using large leaves as makeshift cups to drink water, and even playful interactions where younger members would splash and play. But it was in the twilight hours that the most profound discovery was made. Terrence's drone picked up a significant heat signature beneath the water's surface, an entrance to an underwater cave. That could be a shelter or a resting place, Mia hypothesized. A sanctuary from predators, from prying eyes. Tom's eyes gleamed with excitement. We need to explore this. Not now, it's too dark, and we need to be prepared. But first thing tomorrow. That evening, as the Florida sky painted a canvas of oranges and purples, the team sat around their campfire, processing the day's discoveries. The adaptability of these creatures never ceases to amaze me, Tom began. From the mountains of Patterson to the wetlands of Florida, they found ways to not just survive, but thrive. Mia nodded. Their intelligence, their social structures, it's all so intricate. We're just scratching the surface. Ricky chimed in. Tomorrow's exploration might just be the breakthrough we need. Who knows what secrets that cave holds? As the fire's embers dimmed, and the nocturnal chorus of the Florida wildlife began, the team retreated to their motor coach. Their dreams that night were filled with underwater caves, glowing eyes in the dark, and the echoing roars of a Bigfoot clan, a promise of mysteries yet to unfold. Chapter 8. The true vandals. The early morning sun pierced through the dense forest, casting long shadows across the Joffier cabin. The structure, once a charming and rustic retreat, now lay in disarray. The once sturdy door was off its hinges, windows smashed, and debris was strewn all around. Mia and Ricky were reviewing the drone footage from the previous day, seeking any unnoticed clues about the Sasquatch's movement when Terrence's voice crackled over the radio. "Hey, you might want to see this." His tone was both urgent and perplexed. Tom quickly turned to the main monitor, which displayed a live feed from one of the drones hovering over the cabin. 6 figures were scurrying around the site, teenagers. They were spray painting the exterior, knocking over what little remained undamaged, and laughing as they tossed items around. "That's not Bigfoot," Ricky remarked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Terrence maneuvered the drone lower for a clearer view, capturing the teenagers' faces. As it descended, the sharp drone whir caught their attention. Startled, they looked up, shielding their eyes from the sunlight. Mia frowned. "I bet they're the ones responsible for the original damage. They've probably been using the cabin as their secret party spot and tried to pin it on Bigfoot." Tom nodded. "We need to confront them. We can't let them continue this charade, especially when it's sullying the name of a creature we're trying to understand and protect." Equipped with walkie-talkies, Tom and Ricky approached the cabin on foot, moving quietly and using the dense foliage for cover. Mia and Terrence would provide eyes in the sky, directing the duo and ensuring no teen would flee the scene. The drone, now positioned at a safe distance, captured everything. The teenagers, engrossed in their destruction, didn't notice Tom and Ricky until they were nearly upon them. "Having fun?" Tom's voice boomed, causing the startled teenagers to jump. Ricky, arms crossed, added, "Quite the party spot you've chosen here." The teenagers, caught red-handed, exchanged uneasy glances. A tall boy with sandy hair tried to play it cool. "Who are you guys? What do you want?" "We want answers," Tom responded calmly. "This cabin belongs to the Joffier family. They've been terrified, thinking a Bigfoot has been attacking their property. But now it seems the real culprits are a bit smaller." A girl with bright green streaks in her hair retorted defiantly, "So?" The cabin was already trashed. "We just thought we'd have some fun." Tom leaned in. "So, it was you who staged the first scene, making it appear like a Sasquatch break-in? The teens looked down, and after a moment, a boy with freckles and a baseball cap murmured, "Yeah, it was us." But it was just a prank. Everyone knows Bigfoot's a myth. Ricky raised an eyebrow. A myth? We've got enough evidence to argue otherwise. The sandy-haired boy rolled his eyes. Whatever. So, what now? You gonna call the cops? Tom sighed. No, but you will help clean this place up. And you'll apologize to the Joelfires. The girl with green streaks scoffed. You can't make us. Terrence's voice came over the walkie-talkie. Actually, we can. We've got drone footage of everything you did. Either you clean up, or we hand the footage to the authorities. The realization of their predicament dawned on the teenagers. Murmurs of agreement spread among them, and with reluctant nods, they agreed to Tom's terms. For the rest of the day, the teens labored to restore the cabin to its original state. Under the team's watchful eyes, they repaired broken windows, cleaned up their graffiti, and replaced damaged furniture with whatever usable items were left. By sunset, the Jofier cabin began to resemble its former self. The teens, exhausted but having learned a valuable lesson, finished their tasks. Omar and Loletta Jofier, having been informed of the day's events, arrived just as the final touches were being made. Facing the elderly couple, the sandy-haired boy stepped forward. We're really sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Jofier. It was stupid. Loletta, a kind-hearted woman, responded, Just promise us you won't do something like this again. Not to us, not to anyone. The teenagers nodded, offering sincere apologies before departing, leaving behind a cabin and a story they'd remember for the rest of their lives. As the night fell, Tom mused, today was a good day. We not only protected Bigfoot's reputation but perhaps changed the course of 6 young lives. Ricky chuckled, and all in a day's work. Mia, gazing at Chapter 9. Fostering coexistence, Omar Jofier stared out across the dense woods surrounding their cabin, his fingers tapping a rhythmic beat on the wooden railing of the porch. His mind was abuzz with recent events, from the supposed Bigfoot attack on their cabin to the revelation that it had been mischievous teenagers all along. But the strangest twist was yet to come. Beside him, Loletta sipped on her tea, the steam rising in gentle swirls. It's a lot to take in, isn't it? She murmured. Before Omar could reply, a rustling in the bushes caught their attention. Emerging from the tree line, Tom, Mia, and Ricky approached, their faces filled with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Good morning, Tom greeted with a smile. There's something we thought you should see. Curiosity piqued. The Joelfires followed the trio deeper into the forest, the ground soft and spongy underfoot. They walked in silence, the only sound being the chorus of birds and distant rustling of animals. But what awaited them was no ordinary forest dweller. In a clearing, a family of Sasquatches stood, a male, 2 females, and 3 younger ones. Their large eyes watched the humans intently, a sense of curiosity evident. The male, presumably the leader, took a step forward, grunting softly. Meet the Nalak clan, Tom whispered to Omar and Loletta. One of the Bigfoot clans we've been monitoring in this region. Omar's eyes widened. This is unbelievable. Loletta, always the more adaptable of the two, stepped forward, reaching into her pocket. She pulled out a shiny apple, holding it out to the male Sasquatch. It hesitated for a moment, then gently took it, sniffing it before taking a bite. Ricky chuckled softly. They've grown fond of apples. It's been our peace offering of sorts. Tom nodded. We wanted you both to meet them, to see that they aren't the monsters some stories make them out to be. Mia added, we believe in fostering understanding and coexistence. They've been here long before any cabin or human settlement. It's their land too. As the day progressed, the Joelfires and the Nalak clan interacted cautiously, bridging the gap between species with gestures of goodwill, sharing food, mimicking sounds, and even playing simple games. The younger Sasquatches were especially intrigued, their innocent playfulness shining through. Loletta laughed as one of the younglings tried to braid her hair, its large fingers fumbling comically. Omar, usually stern-faced, couldn't resist a smile, throwing a ball back and forth with another. By late afternoon, a bond had begun to form, tentative but promising. The Nalak clan seemed to understand the humans meant no harm. Tom seized the opportunity to broach the subject of coexistence. We've been researching Sasquatches for years, Tom began, addressing the Joelfires. From our studies, we've found they're highly intelligent, with complex social structures and even a rudimentary form of communication. But more than anything, they want to be left in peace. Omar nodded slowly. So, what do you suggest? Mia responded, simple gestures go a long way. Leave out food for them occasionally. Apples, vegetables, even some fish. Avoid encroaching on their territory, especially during their mating season. And most importantly, respect their privacy. Ricky added, you have a unique opportunity here. Not many get to interact with Sasquatches on such a personal level. If you play your cards right, you can have both a peaceful cabin life and some extraordinary neighbors. Loletta squeezed Omar's hand. It's the least we can do, after all they've been through. Omar took a deep breath, meeting the gaze of the male Sasquatch leader. All right, we'll try. For their sake and ours. As the sun began its descent, casting golden hues across the forest, the Nalak clan retreated into the woods, their large frames disappearing among the trees. The Joelfires, accompanied by Tom and his team, made their way back to the cabin, a newfound understanding in their hearts. That evening, as Loletta prepared dinner and Omar tended to the fireplace, the couple shared a moment of reflection. The events of the past few days had transformed their perceptions and given them a mission, to protect and coexist with the incredible beings that shared their land. Outside, a soft grunt echoed in the distance, followed by the hoot of an owl. It was a reminder that the forest was alive, teeming with mysteries and wonders waiting to be discovered. And as the first stars began to twinkle in the inky sky, the promise of a harmonious future, where man and Sasquatch lived side by side, seemed not only possible but inevitable. Chapter 10. A sudden disappearance. The morning sun shone brightly over Jacksonville, filtering through the dense trees and casting dappled light onto the forest floor. Inside the Joelfire cabin, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the scent of crisp bacon. Loletta, with a local newspaper in hand, sat at the dining table, skimming through the headlines. Suddenly, her eyes widened as she gasped, her fingers tightening around the paper. Oh, no. Omar looked up from his breakfast, concern evident on his face. What is it? She handed him the paper, pointing to a headline that read, Local Girl, 12, Missing in Jacksonville Woods. The article went on to describe a young girl named Emily Roberts who had disappeared 2 days prior. She was last seen playing near the edge of the woods, an area notorious for Bigfoot sightings. Tom, Mia, and Ricky, overhearing the conversation, approached the table. Tom's brow furrowed as he read the article. This is close to one of the hot spots we've been monitoring. Mia added, It's a heavily wooded area with numerous Bigfoot IR signatures. We need to help. Omar nodded in agreement. Absolutely. Let's mobilize. Within the hour, the team had gathered their equipment and was en route to the area where Emily had last been seen. They parked the motorcoach at the edge of the woods, drawing attention from a few local residents who had joined the search. Among them was a distraught woman, presumably Emily's mother, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. Tom approached her gently. "Ma'am, we're here to help. Our team specializes in tracking, and we have equipment that might aid in the search." The woman nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. Anything to find my Emily." Drones were quickly launched, sweeping the area with advanced IR sensors. Mia monitored the live feed, pointing out areas of interest. Several Bigfoot signatures were picked up, but there was no sign of the missing girl. Hours turned into an entire day, and as nightfall approached, hope waned. The forest was vast, and the dense foliage made the search challenging. Late into the night, as the team was considering calling it a day, Ricky's radio crackled to life. "Guys, I found something." Tom and the others rushed to Ricky's location, finding him crouched near a small clearing. He pointed to a small, makeshift fort made of branches and leaves. "Looks like a child's play area." Beside the fort lay a small, pink shoe, Emily's, as confirmed by her mother. Loletta whispered, "She was here." Ricky nodded. "But the question is, where is she now?" Mia's eyes darted to a trail of broken branches leading deeper into the woods. "She might have gone that way. We should follow." The team, guided by the trail and their equipment, ventured further. Hours felt like minutes, and as dawn approached, the forest unveiled another mystery. In a remote clearing stood 3 cypress trees, their trunks arching together, with red ribbons tied around them. Tom froze. Jasmine's warning. Mia looked around nervously. "We need to tread carefully." Suddenly, a soft whimper caught their attention. Turning their flashlights, they found Emily, huddled under the arching trees, her face streaked with dirt and tears. She looked terrified but unharmed. Rushing to her side, Tom gently asked, "Emily, are you okay?" "What happened?" Through sniffles, the young girl replied, "I was playing and got lost. Then, I found this place. I felt safe here, so I stayed." Mia raised an eyebrow. "But how did you avoid the Bigfoots? This is their territory." Emily's eyes widened. "The tall, furry creatures? They protected me. Gave me berries to eat. They were nice." Omar looked at Tom, realization dawning. They were looking out for her. Tom nodded. "It seems so." As the sun cast its first golden rays, the team, along with a grateful mother and her rescued daughter, made their way out of the woods. The local community hailed them as heroes, but the real heroes were the misunderstood giants who had once again proven their gentle nature. The Joelfires, along with Tom and his team, had not only forged a bond with the Sasquatches but had also unraveled the truth about their protective instincts, forever changing the narrative surrounding these elusive beings. Chapter 11. In the nick of time, dawn's early light painted the Florida skies with hues of pink and gold, casting a warm glow on the dense vegetation below. The stillness of the morning was interrupted by the soft hum of drones as they buzzed over the tree canopy, scanning the landscape below with infrared sensors. Inside the motorcoach, Mia, Tom, and Ricky monitored the live feeds from multiple screens. They were searching for any trace of Emily, the missing girl, or any significant heat signature that could lead them to her. The forest is dense here, Mia remarked, squinting at one of the screens. The canopies making it tough for the IR sensors to penetrate fully. Tom nodded in agreement. We need to narrow our search. Let's focus on clearings or any open spaces. She might have sought refuge in one of them. Hours dragged on, with the team painstakingly combing through miles of forested terrain. Just as they were about to take a short break, one of the drone's screens flickered, displaying an anomalous heat signature deep within the forest, in an area characterized by thick trees and swampy ground. That's her, Ricky exclaimed, pointing at the screen. That's got to be Emily. Without wasting a moment, the team packed their gear and started their trek towards the location. Navigating the forest was challenging. The ground was uneven, and large roots protruded everywhere. The swamps made it even more difficult, with mud threatening to suck down any misstepped foot. As they delved deeper, the buzzing of mosquitoes grew louder, and the air grew thick with humidity. Sweat poured down their faces as they maneuvered around trees, jumped over creeks, and wrestled with vines. Loletta, holding a small machete, took the lead, cutting through the thick underbrush. We're close, she announced, pointing at her GPS. Suddenly, a loud rustle echoed from the nearby trees, stopping the team in their tracks. Out of the shadows, a massive silhouette emerged. It was an adult Sasquatch, its dark eyes studying the group intently. Tom raised his hands, signaling for everyone to remain calm. It's okay, he whispered. Remember, they've been more friend than foe. Mia nodded, taking slow steps forward. We mean no harm, she said gently, hoping the creature would understand. We're here to find a missing girl. The Sasquatch tilted its head, its eyes softening. It then beckoned for the team to follow and turned back into the dense forest. With cautious optimism, they followed the Sasquatch, who expertly navigated the forest, showing them paths that made the journey easier. It was as if the creature knew the forest like the back of its hand, guiding them with a purpose. After what felt like hours, the Sasquatch stopped in a clearing where sunlight broke through the canopy, illuminating the forest floor. In the center of the clearing, surrounded by ferns and wildflowers, was Emily. She was asleep, her chest rising and falling with steady breaths. Ricky rushed forward, gently waking the girl. Emily's eyes fluttered open, and a smile broke across her face as she recognized the team. You found me, she whispered, her voice hoarse from dehydration. We had a little help, Tom replied, nodding towards the Sasquatch, who stood at the edge of the clearing, watching the reunion. As Mia handed Emily a bottle of water, the girl explained, I was scared and lost. But then she pointed at the Sasquatch, found me. He gave me fruits and showed me this place to sleep. Tom approached the Sasquatch, extending his hand. Thank you, he said sincerely. The creature responded with a soft grunt, touching Tom's hand with its own, a gesture that spoke volumes. The journey back was less arduous, with the Sasquatch leading the way, ensuring the team avoided the swamps and other treacherous terrains. Once they reached the edge of the forest, the creature gave a final look towards Emily, a look filled with concern and relief, before disappearing back into the woods. As the team made their way back to the motorcoach, Emily, now safe and sound, clutched Loletta's hand. He was nice, she remarked, like a big, furry guardian angel. Tom smiled, gazing back at the forest. Sometimes, in our quest for understanding, we find that those we fear the most are the ones who save us in the nick of time. Chapter 12. Hidden agendas. The camp was buzzing with activity as the sun descended below the horizon. The joyous relief of having found Emily had brought a temporary lightness to the atmosphere. Yet, as the night set in, an eerie silence surrounded the motor coach, penetrated only by the distant croaking of frogs and the murmur of crickets. Tom sat by a makeshift fire, the flames casting dancing shadows upon his face. He couldn't shake off the unease that had settled in his gut. It was too quiet. A soft crunching of leaves alerted him to someone's approach. Ricky stepped out from the shadows, looking equally uneasy. "Something's off, Tom," he whispered. "I spotted some figures lurking by the trees earlier. They're watching us." Without a word, Tom rose, signaling for Ricky to lead the way. The two of them moved stealthily, using the shadows to their advantage. Within minutes, they spotted a group of figures standing in a tight circle, conversing in hushed tones. Franklin, the man they had been wary of since their arrival, was at the center. Surrounding him were several other individuals dressed in sharp black suits, quite out of place for a dense forest setting. Their attire reminded Tom of the rumored Men in Black. Crouching behind a bush, Tom and Ricky strained to hear their conversation. "The Sasquatch isn't just a simple creature of myth," Franklin was saying. "They hold the key. Their existence, their behavior, it's all a front." One of the suited men responded, "Our superiors are becoming impatient. We need results, Franklin. And if your sources are correct, this team might get in our way." Ricky glanced at Tom, fear evident in his eyes. They were clearly eavesdropping on something much larger than they had anticipated. "Relax," Franklin said, his tone confident. "I've got this under control. The team trusts me. It won't be long before I can guide them to the places we need. Once we have what we want, they'll be none the wiser." Tom felt a surge of anger. He had suspected Franklin's hidden motives, but this confirmed his worst fears. Yet, instead of confronting him immediately, Tom decided it would be best to gather more information and stay ahead of the game. Motioning for Ricky to retreat, the two of them headed back to the camp. Once safely away from prying ears, Ricky whispered, "Tom, what on earth are they after? What does the Sasquatch have that's so important?" Tom looked thoughtful for a moment. "I'm not entirely sure. But whatever it is, it's big. We need to tread carefully. We can't let them know we're onto them." The next morning, as the sun cast its golden rays across the campsite, the team gathered for breakfast. Tom, maintaining an air of casualness, asked Franklin about his whereabouts the previous night. "Just taking a stroll," Franklin responded, his eyes not meeting Tom's. "The night air helps me think." Tom nodded, not pressing further. But as the days progressed, he kept a close eye on Franklin and his activities. It was Mia who made the next discovery. While going through some footage from their drones, she found something odd, an anomaly not related to Bigfoot but of human activity. There was a hidden base, camouflaged well within the forest, with high-tech equipment and vehicles that seemed otherworldly. "This is no ordinary research facility," Mia said, her voice trembling. "Tom, they're onto something big here." A realization dawned on Tom. The Bigfoot isn't just an object of their study. They're a part of a much bigger plan. Their intelligence, adaptability, it's something these men want to harness or exploit. The puzzle pieces began falling into place. The Men in Black, Franklin's involvement, the hidden facility, it all pointed to a larger conspiracy, one that had its roots deep within the mysteries surrounding Bigfoot. "We need to expose them," Ricky stated firmly. "If they're after the Sasquatch for malicious intent, we need to protect them." Mia nodded, "But we need solid proof." We need to infiltrate their facility. The plan was risky but necessary. With their gear packed and a newfound determination, the team set out to unveil the truth behind the hidden agendas that lurked in the shadows of the Bigfoot mystery. But as they ventured deeper into the enigma, they realized that this was just the tip of the iceberg, with more secrets waiting to be uncovered in the vast, mysterious domain of the Sasquatch. Chapter 13. Into the deep swamp. As dawn broke over the vast Florida landscape, the team faced a decision that could potentially alter the course of their investigation. Whether to venture deeper into the swamp, heedless of Jasmine's dire warning. The discovery of the hidden facility and the looming shadows of conspiracy made their quest even more critical. Every clue, no matter how perilous, needed to be pursued. "Mia, run the coordinates again," Tom commanded, peering at the drone's live feed on the laptop. "We need to ensure we're heading in the right direction." Mia nodded, manipulating the controls expertly. If Jasmine's warning was accurate, then the 3 cypress trees with the red ribbons should be our landmark. The dense thicket of the swamp made the journey challenging. High water boots squelched in the muddy ground, water bugs skipped over stagnant pools, and every so often, a splash would alert them to an alligator's presence. But nothing, not even the thick canopy above that turned day to dusk, could dampen their determination. Hours seemed to merge as they trudged on. Ricky, who was leading the pack, suddenly held up his hand, signaling for silence. A few feet ahead, there they stood, the 3 cypress trees, tall and foreboding, each adorned with a vivid red ribbon fluttering softly in the breeze. "We found them," Ricky whispered, but his voice held no triumph, only unease. The area around the trees felt heavy, saturated with an unseen force that sent shivers down their spines. Tom approached the trees slowly, his eyes scanning the area. "This is it," he said, his voice hushed. "Whatever Jasmine warned us about, it's here." No sooner had he spoken than an eerie silence enveloped them. The chirping of crickets, the distant calls of birds, all ceased, leaving an oppressive stillness. Then, out of the silence, a faint hum began, growing louder and more distinct. The very ground beneath them vibrated, and the waters of the swamp started to ripple and churn. Mia grabbed Tom's arm, her face pale. "What's happening?" Ricky pointed to a spot in the swamp, his face etched with fear. A whirlpool had formed, growing in size, its center a gaping void. But what terrified them more were the shapes emerging from the vortex, shadowy figures that seemed to materialize out of thin air. Tom realized with a jolt that these weren't mere apparitions. They were entities of some kind, ethereal and intangible, yet possessing a force that was palpable. Their forms shifted, sometimes human-like, sometimes more abstract, but their eyes, those were constant, glowing a fierce blue. "We need to leave. Now!" shouted Ricky, but his warning came too late. An unseen force, much stronger than before, held them in place, rendering them immobile. They could only watch in horror as the figures drew closer. And then, a voice, soft yet commanding, echoed in their minds. "Why have you come here?" Tom, gathering all his courage, responded mentally, "We seek the truth." "We mean no harm." The voice seemed to contemplate this. "Many have come before you, seeking to exploit and harm. What makes you different?" "We've seen the bond between the Sasquatch and this land," Tom replied, his thoughts clear and sincere. "We want to understand, to coexist, not conquer." A tense pause followed, during which the team felt the weight of the swamp's scrutiny. Then, gradually, the oppressive force holding them lessened, and the shadowy figures receded, merging back into the vortex until they disappeared entirely. The hum faded, the normal sounds of the swamp returned, and the team found themselves standing, drenched in sweat and trembling, by the 3 cypress trees. Ricky sank to his knees, gasping for breath. What? What were they? Mia, her face still pale, whispered, "Guardians. Protectors of this sacred place." Tom nodded in agreement. And they've seen what's happening. The exploitation, the hidden agendas. We've been given a chance, a rare privilege. We need to honor that. With renewed determination and a deeper understanding of the mysteries they were delving into, the team made their way out of the deep swamp. The warnings had been real, the dangers tangible, but their resolve had been tested and found true. Their journey was far from over, but with each step, they were drawing closer to unveiling the profound secrets that lay hidden in the heart of the Sasquatch domain. Chapter 14. Revelations. Back at camp, the night air was thick with tension and anticipation. The motor coach sat humming softly, its internal lights casting a warm glow against the darkening Florida skies. Inside, Tom, Mia, and Ricky gathered around a makeshift table cluttered with maps, articles, and the drone equipment. Loletta and Omar Jofir joined them, their expressions a mixture of concern and curiosity. The day's events, culminating in the surreal encounter in the deep swamp, had opened a realm of possibilities neither had ever imagined. Ricky booted up his laptop, the screen flickering to life. "I've been looking into this," he began, clicking on a folder labeled Historical Accounts. "There are numerous stories, folk tales, and documented accounts about Sasquatch from all across North America, but it's the stories from this specific region that are truly fascinating." Loletta leaned in, her eyes scanning the text. "Are these testimonies?" "In a way, yes," Ricky replied. "It's a compilation of encounters, tales, and experiences passed down through generations, mainly from the indigenous tribes of the region. But what's consistent in these stories is the symbiotic relationship between Sasquatch and humans." Omar frowned. "Symbiotic?" Tom nodded. "It means there was a mutually beneficial relationship. The Sasquatch, with their strength and understanding of the land, and the humans, with their innovation and adaptability, found ways to coexist. They shared resources, territories, and even knowledge." Mia clicked on a document, bringing up an old photograph of a group of indigenous people standing beside a large, shadowy figure. The caption read, "The Council of Pine Creek, 1908. This photo is believed to be one of the first ever taken of a Sasquatch human gathering. It's from the Pine Creek region, not far from here." Loletta's hand covered her mouth in disbelief. That's real?" Ricky nodded. "It's been verified. The photo was taken during a meeting where land boundaries were being discussed. The Sasquatch, it seems, had their own territories, and the humans respected that. The stories flowed seamlessly from one to another, painting a vivid picture of cooperation. There were tales of Sasquatch warning tribes of incoming storms or guiding lost hunters back to their communities. In return, the humans would share their food, offer tools, or even sing songs in tribute. "The more I delve into this," Ricky mused, "the more I realize that what we see today as mysteries or myths were once well-known facts. The interconnectedness of the Bigfoot clans, their territories stretching from the mountains to these swamps, all of it is rooted in a shared history." Tom's eyes had a distant look. "It makes me wonder where it all went wrong. When did we lose that connection?" Omar sighed. "It's progress, I guess. We moved ahead, built cities, expanded, and in that hustle, we lost touch with the land and its secrets. There was a moment of contemplative silence, each lost in their thoughts. The weight of history pressed upon them, the missed opportunities and forgotten alliances. Suddenly, Mia had a thought: what if we could re-establish that connection? With the drones, the technology, and the historical accounts, we could not only study the Sasquatch but also facilitate a new era of mutual understanding. Loletta looked hopeful, like a bridge between the past and the present. Tom smiled. Exactly. We've been given a chance, a glimpse into what once was. We owe it to the Sasquatch, and to ourselves, to ensure that history isn't lost. That the mutual respect and shared territories aren't just tales for books but a reality we can live. The energy in the room shifted, the atmosphere now charged with a renewed sense of purpose. The team, along with the Joelfires, stood at the precipice of something monumental, a venture that could change the course of Sasquatch-human relations for generations to come. Outside, the Florida night was alive with sounds, the chirping of crickets, the distant hoot of an owl, and maybe, just maybe, the soft footsteps of a Sasquatch, watching, waiting, and hoping for a brighter future. Chapter 15. Unearthed histories. The following morning, Farley, one of the local bikers from the gang that had previously guarded Tom's team, ambled into camp. He wore a worn-out leather jacket and a beanie, with a beard that hadn't seen a razor in months. But it was the cloth-wrapped bundle he carried under his arm that captured everyone's attention. The team gathered around, curious. "I heard you folks discussing history last night," Farley began, voice gravelly. "Thought you might want to take a look at some family heirlooms. Been in my family for generations." He unwrapped the cloth carefully, revealing a set of intricately carved stone tools and a beautifully preserved leather satchel. The satchel bore inscriptions, symbols and patterns unfamiliar to any present. "Whoa," Ricky whispered. This is amazing. Where did these come from?" "My great-great-grandpa," Farley responded. He was a storyteller. Kept saying these items belonged to the elders of the forest. Never took him seriously. But after hearing your stories, I wondered if there was more to it. Tom picked up a carved stone tool, the weight of history heavy in his palm. "These carvings. They look similar to some indigenous symbols. But these," he pointed at the satchel's inscriptions, "are unlike anything I've seen." Mia's fingers traced the inscriptions. "The craftsmanship is impeccable. It's as if whoever made this wanted to record something of utmost importance." They all turned to Farley, waiting. He took a deep breath. The satchel carries stories. Stories passed down from the elders. They believed that these forests were alive. The Sasquatch, or as they called them, Nakoa, were the protectors, the bridge between man and nature. Ricky's eyes widened. "Nakoa? That's a word of reverence. It means the wise ones. We've seen it in ancient scripts." Loletta, eyes glued to the satchel, murmured, "So, the Sasquatch weren't just creatures. They had a significant spiritual role." "Absolutely," Farley nodded. "They were seen as guardians. Protectors of the forest and its secrets. It's said they'd often appear during significant tribal events, births, deaths, and even during times of conflict, mediating peace." Tom's mind raced. The interconnectedness Ricky mentioned, it was spiritual. It was not just a sharing of resources but a profound bond, a belief that man and Sasquatch had roles in the grand scheme of things. Mia chimed in. This could also explain their migration. If tribes held them in reverence, it's possible they'd move with them, ensuring protection and balance. Farley's eyes misted over. My great-great-grandpa used to say that the Nakoa had songs. Songs that echoed the universe's rhythms. When they sang, the forests listened. The animals listened. Everyone listened. It was harmony. Ricky, engrossed in the artifacts, posed a question. But why has this history, this incredible tale of mutual respect, been lost? Why isn't this common knowledge? Omar answered, his voice heavy. As with many things, the narratives of dominant cultures overshadow indigenous tales. Histories get lost, stories fade, and what was once known becomes myth. There was a heavy silence, the weight of lost stories pressing down on them. Tom, ever the optimist, broke the silence. But we have a chance now. A chance to bring these stories back to life. To give them the respect they deserve. Mia added, with these artifacts, the tales Farley has shared, and our own experiences, we could create a repository. A record for generations to come. Loletta smiled. The Joffier cabin could become a place of history. A place where Sasquatch and humans are remembered for their bond. Farley looked around, a smile tugging at his lips. My great-great-grandpa would be happy. His tales, the Nakawa's legacy, will live on. As the morning sun streamed through the trees, casting a golden hue over the camp, the team, and their newfound allies, a sense of purpose welled within them. They were no longer just researchers. They were custodians of history, guardians of a tale that needed to be told. The Bigfoot mystery, it seemed, was not just about sightings or evidence. It was about understanding a profound bond, a connection that had shaped histories, cultures, and landscapes. It was a tale of respect, reverence, and shared destinies. And it was a tale they were determined to share with the world. Chapter 16. The Florida Conundrum. Tom and Mia sat at the edge of the camp, gazing out at the sprawling wetlands, their waters reflecting the deep orange hue of the setting sun. The soft chirping of crickets and the distant call of birds added to the serene ambiance. Mia took a deep breath, inhaling the earthy scent of the swamp. You know, for all the mystique surrounding the Sasquatch, there's an eeriness to Florida that's uniquely its own. It's as though the state has secrets layered upon secrets. Tom nodded in agreement. And it's not just the swamps and marshes. It's the mangroves, the dense forests, the long stretches of coastlines. Florida's geography is a puzzle. And the Sasquatch seemed to be a significant piece of that puzzle, Mia remarked. How have they managed to thrive here, hidden in plain sight, when the landscape is so different from the Pacific Northwest? Loletta, overhearing their conversation, approached with Omar in tow. You know, growing up here, the Sasquatch, or skunk apes, as we sometimes called them, were just part of the local lore. No one really talked about them, but everyone knew. Omar nodded. It's strange. In cities, people would mock the idea. But here, among the locals, it's an unspoken acknowledgement. As if coexistence is a given. Tom looked intrigued. It's fascinating. I wonder if the state's unique geography and ecosystem have played a part in this mutual understanding. Ricky, joining the group with a map in hand, spread it out on a makeshift table. Look at this. Florida's geography is unique. With the Everglades here, he pointed to the south, a massive tropical wetland, and then there's the St. Johns River, a slow-moving river that winds through much of the state, not to mention the countless springs and lakes. He continued, all these waterways provide ample coverage, food, and stealth routes. I believe the Sasquatch use these natural paths for migration and communication. Loletta's eyes sparkled. And don't forget the numerous underwater caves. We've got one of the largest concentrations of freshwater springs in the world. Legends say that some of these caves lead to vast underground networks. Perfect hideouts. Mia leaned in. So, you're saying that these creatures, they're not just forest dwellers. They've adapted to the aquatic environments, using water as their shield. Exactly, Ricky replied. The dense vegetation, mangroves, swamps, they all offer protection from prying eyes. And the waterways, be it rivers, springs, or coastal regions, provide ample food sources, from fish to crustaceans. Omar added, this might also explain the varied descriptions. Some say they've seen more agile, slender Sasquatches, adept at climbing trees, while others mention bulkier figures, probably suited for water. Different terrains, different adaptations. The realization slowly settled in. Florida's complex geography wasn't just supporting the Sasquatch, it was shaping them, molding them in ways previously unimagined. As the evening deepened, and a soft mist began to rise from the water's surface, a local fisherman named Jeb wandered into their camp. An old, wiry man with deep-set eyes, Jeb was known to have countless tales about the region. You folks seem mighty interested in the land's secrets, he rasped, his voice a gentle whisper. You should know then, these swamps, these waters, they've seen ages come and go. And the Sasquatch, they've been here, guardians of these lands, long before our time. Mia asked, so, the locals, they've always known? Jeb chuckled softly, known? Yes. Spoken about? No. Some truths, they're felt, not told. We respect them, they respect us. It's the way it's always been. Tom exchanged glances with his team. The Florida conundrum, it seemed, was a dance, an age-old waltz of nature, creatures, and man. A harmonious balance where the lines between myth and reality blurred, where acceptance was silent, and coexistence was a testament to the state's enchanting allure. As Jeb ambled away, disappearing into the mists, Tom couldn't help but feel a profound connection to the land and its stories. Florida, with its unique geography and ancient legends, had opened a new chapter in the Sasquatch Chronicles, one that spoke of adaptation, mutual respect, and the timeless bonds of nature. Chapter 17. Final days in Florida. The early rays of dawn broke through the canopy, casting a warm golden hue over the campsite. The familiar sounds of the Florida wetlands were now accompanied by the bustling noises of the team members packing up their equipment, folding tents, and securing boxes. Tom walked over to the motor coach, staring at the myriad of footprints, both human and Sasquatch, that intertwined, telling a story of their eventful days here. His gaze then shifted to the biker clubhouse, where a few members were already up, likely prepping for the farewell party later that evening. Mia approached, her face reflecting a mixture of excitement and melancholy. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm going to miss this place. Tom smiled. Me too. Florida has been full of surprises. As the day wore on, more bikers started gathering around their clubhouse, setting up grills and laying out long tables filled with a mouth-watering assortment of food and drinks. The bikers, once a potential threat, had now become allies, and the transformation was nothing short of astonishing. In the midst of this preparation, Farley, his rugged face more relaxed than Tom had ever seen, approached. Tom, I've been thinking. I've learned a lot here, not just about the Sasquatch, but about people too. Your team has a way of bringing folks together. I'd like to be a part of that. Tom, taken aback by the proposal, considered it for a moment. We'd be honored to have you, Farley. There's still so much out there to discover. Farley grinned. I have a few contacts and tales from other parts of the country. Places where Bigfoot sightings are whispered about. I think together, we can unearth more secrets. As the evening approached, the aroma of grilled meats filled the air, and the once silent grounds transformed into a vibrant venue, alive with laughter, music, and camaraderie. Bikers shared tales of their wild rides while Tom's team recounted their adventurous Sasquatch encounters. Omar and Loletta took center stage, performing a heartfelt song dedicated to the bonds formed during the expedition. Their melodic voices echoed through the swamp, adding to the enchantment of the evening. At one point, a biker named Tank, his bulky frame covered in tattoos, stood up, raising his glass for a toast. To unexpected alliances, the mysteries of the swamp, and to friendships that'll last a lifetime. The crowd cheered in agreement, their glasses clinking in unison. The night was filled with dancing, games, and even a makeshift karaoke session where Ricky hilariously tried his hand at a country ballad. Jasmine, once a mysterious voice on the phone, had now become a celebrated guest, sharing stories about the deep swamps, the legends surrounding the 3 cypress trees, and even hinting at places yet unexplored. As the night deepened and the party began to wind down, the members of Tom's team sat around a bonfire. The soft crackling of the fire and the distant sounds of the swamp provided a soothing background score. Mia, her face illuminated by the firelight, said, "This journey has taught us so much. About the Sasquatch, about Florida, and about ourselves." Ricky nodded. "I never expected to form a bond with a biker gang, of all people. But life has a funny way of making things work." Farley, now wearing a team jacket handed to him by Tom, chuckled, "You city folks aren't so bad after all." Tom leaned back, looking up at the vast starry sky. "We came here in search of the Sasquatch, but we discovered so much more. Florida's mysteries, its people, and its stories will forever remain etched in our hearts." One by one, the team members shared their reflections, their hopes, and their dreams for future expeditions. The bonfire, with its warm embrace, became a witness to these shared moments, a testament to the bonds formed and the memories created. As dawn began to break, signaling their last day in Florida, Tom's team, now with Farley as a new member, boarded their motor coach, their hearts filled with gratitude and anticipation for the next adventure. The bikers, once adversaries, now stood in a line, waving them off. Tank, with a tear in his eye, yelled, "Safe travels, friends. Remember, the swamps will always welcome you back." And as the motor coach disappeared into the horizon, the legend of the Florida Sasquatch, intertwined with tales of unexpected friendships and age-old mysteries, became a cherished chapter in the annals of the Sasquatch Chronicles. Chapter 18. Departure. The sun had barely crested the horizon, casting the Florida wetlands in a soft, golden light. The usually bustling campsite was a hub of activity, but today it was different. It was filled with a sense of closure, of finality. The team, along with Farley, were meticulously packing their equipment, folding tents, and loading up the motor coach. But it wasn't just the team that was present. A sizable gathering from the local community had formed a semicircle around the campsite. Tom noticed an elderly woman, her skin deeply etched with the tales of time, holding a small leather-bound book. Beside her, a young man with a toddler on his hip, and several others of various ages, all with a shared look of anticipation. Tom approached the elderly woman, who introduced herself as Mrs. Beauregard. "My family has lived on this land for generations," she began. "We've always known about the Sasquatch. They're a part of our history, our stories. I wanted to share something with you." She handed the leather-bound book to Tom. Flipping it open, he realized it was a journal, the pages yellowed with age. Entries dated back decades, each detailing encounters, observations, and personal experiences with the Sasquatch. Mrs. Beauregard pointed to an entry from the 1950s. "That's from my grandmother. She wrote about a Sasquatch who'd visit her garden. They had an understanding. She'd leave out berries, and in return, the Sasquatch would help her with heavy tasks around the farm." The young man beside her, introducing himself as Jacob, added, "My dad told me about the times he'd go fishing, and a Sasquatch would be on the other side of the river. They'd nod at each other, acknowledging each other's presence, and then go about their business." One by one, members of the community came forward, sharing their tales. From playful encounters with Sasquatch younglings to shared moments of understanding and mutual respect. The stories painted a vivid tapestry of a community living in harmony with these magnificent beings. Ricky, always with his camera at the ready, began documenting these stories, capturing the emotion and the raw authenticity in each tale. Mia, on the other hand, was busy jotting down notes, making sure no detail was missed. Farley, deep in conversation with a group of locals, looked up and gestured for Tom to join them. They were discussing the unique geography of Florida and how it supported the Sasquatch clans. The intricate network of waterways, the dense forests, and the abundance of food sources made it an ideal habitat. But more than that, the respect and understanding the local community had for the Sasquatch played a significant role in their coexistence. As the morning wore on, the stories continued to flow. Tom realized that while they had uncovered many secrets, they had only just scratched the surface. The Florida Sasquatch Chronicles were deeply intertwined with the lives of the people here, and there was so much more to discover. By noon, the motor coach was packed and ready to go. The team gathered for one last group photo with the community. There were handshakes, hugs, and promises of returning. Mrs. Beauregard, with tears in her eyes, handed Tom a small pouch. "It's a gift, from our land to you. May it guide and protect you on your journeys." Inside the pouch were small stones, each engraved with symbols of the local tribe, believed to offer protection to the bearer. The motor coach roared to life, and as it trundled down the dirt road, the team took one last look at the wetlands, the bikers, the locals, and the vast expanse of mysteries they had come to love. Mia, looking out of the window, whispered more to herself than anyone else, "We came as seekers, and we leave with a deeper understanding, not just of the Sasquatch but of the land and its people." Ricky, with a smirk, added, "And we've got one hell of a documentary in the making." Farley, settling into his seat, said, "You city folks have a way of making every place feel like home. I'm looking forward to our next adventure." Tom, holding the pouch from Mrs. Beauregard, responded, "Florida will always be special. But the road is long, and the Sasquatch Chronicles are far from over." And as the motor coach disappeared into the distance, the stories, encounters, and lessons from Florida became an indelible chapter in their ongoing journey to understand the enigma of the Sasquatch. Chapter 19. To the next adventure, the motor coach hummed along the highway, its interior alive with the soft glow of various electronic devices. Farley, now officially part of the team, looked out at the passing scenery with an air of contemplation. The vast plains outside seemed to stretch endlessly, mirroring the endless possibilities of their future expeditions. Tom, seated at a makeshift workspace at the center of the motor coach, was engrossed in a map, speckled with multicolored pins and markers. Each color represented a different type of sighting or event related to Sasquatch activity. It was evident from the densely populated map that sightings were far more frequent than anyone had initially suspected. Mia, laptop open, scrolled through hundreds of emails that had poured in since their documentary teaser had been released. "Look at this," she exclaimed. "Reports are coming in from all over, the Pacific Northwest, the Appalachians, even as far off as the Canadian Rockies." Ricky leaned over her shoulder, skimming through the content. "This one's from Washington State. A ranger talks about hearing strange vocalizations at night and finding massive footprints near a lake. Sounds like classic Sasquatch territory." Farley chimed in. "I've heard stories from other hunters about similar findings in Oregon." Always dismissed it as mere talk, but now, I'm not so sure. Tom rubbed his temples, lost in thought. "It's clear we're onto something bigger than we anticipated. Our work in Florida was just the tip of the iceberg. But where do we go next? There's so much ground to cover." Suddenly, the motor coach's communication system beeped. A video call from Dr. Elena Greer, a renowned anthropologist and an old friend of Tom's, was incoming. The screen lit up, revealing a familiar face framed by a mop of curly gray hair. "Tom," she greeted with enthusiasm, "I've been following your work in Florida." "Absolutely fascinating." Tom smiled. "Always a pleasure, Elena." "To what do I owe the honor?" Elena's face took on a serious expression. "I've come across something that might interest you. A discovery in the Pacific Northwest, in the Mount St. Helens region. I've found ancient artifacts, skeletal remains even, that hint at the possibility of a humanoid species, much larger than modern humans." Mia's eyes widened in surprise. "That's huge, Elena. Are you suggesting that there's tangible evidence of Sasquatch's ancient existence?" Elena nodded. "It's too early to say for sure, but the preliminary data is promising." "Tom, I think your team needs to see this firsthand." The atmosphere in the motor coach was electric. The Pacific Northwest had always been a hotspot for Bigfoot enthusiasts, and the possibility of uncovering concrete evidence was a tantalizing prospect. Ricky, ever the filmmaker, was already visualizing the narrative. Imagine capturing this discovery on film, intertwining it with local folklore, the dense, misty forests, and the snow-capped peaks. It's a storyteller's dream. Farley, however, voiced a concern. The Pacific Northwest is vast, rugged, and can be treacherous. "We need to be prepared for anything." Tom, with a glint in his eye, responded, "Then it's a good thing we have you on board, Farley." Elena, sensing their excitement, added, "I'll coordinate with local experts, guides, and tribes. They have tales and histories that go back centuries, intertwined with legends of the Sasquatch." Mia, ever the organizer, began listing out tasks. "We need to equip ourselves for colder climates, get permissions, and liaise with Dr. Greer's team for logistics." As the discussion evolved, Tom couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the journey they were on. It wasn't just about proving the existence of Sasquatch. It was about understanding their history, their connection to humans, and preserving that knowledge for future generations. The road ahead was filled with promise. Mysteries that spanned continents, histories interwoven with legends, and a team united by a shared passion. As the motor coach sped on, it wasn't just moving towards another location. It was journeying into the heart of one of the world's most enduring enigmas. And as the horizon stretched out before them, Tom felt a profound sense of purpose. The quest to uncover the truths of the Sasquatch Chronicles had only just begun, and the road was calling them forward to their next great adventure. Chapter 20. Teasing the future, the roar of the motor coach engine reverberated through the crisp morning air. The team, with the Florida expedition behind them, was now headed for uncharted territories. The horizon was no longer just a distant line but a tantalizing promise of the mysteries that lay ahead. Inside the mobile command center, Tom surveyed the intricate web of multicolored pins that adorned the map. Each color, each type of pin, represented something different, from reported sightings and vocalizations to unexplained events linked to the elusive Bigfoot. The map was not just a geographical representation, it was a complex narrative of human and Sasquatch interaction. Mia, her fingers dancing swiftly across her laptop keyboard, remarked, "The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. People from all over are reaching out, wanting to share their stories. It seems like we've started a movement." Ricky, eyes glued to his handheld camera's screen, played back snippets of interviews they had taken from locals during their Florida stay. The stories are diverse, but the underlying theme remains the same, a sense of wonder, mixed with respect and, at times, fear. Farley, who had become increasingly immersed in research since joining the team, pulled up a website. "Look at this. Reports from the Santa Cruz Mountains in California. Locals talk about the tall ones, who reside amidst the ancient redwoods." Tom leaned in, intrigued. The Santa Cruz Mountains? That area is rich in Native American history. I remember reading about tribes speaking of spiritual entities that roamed those woods. Mia nodded. It's a hotspot for paranormal researchers, too. Theories range from UFO sightings to interdimensional beings. And, of course, Bigfoot. Ricky's filmmaker instincts were tingling. Imagine the towering redwoods, mist hanging low, and silhouettes of Bigfoot moving gracefully amidst them. The visual potential is fantastic. The chatter was interrupted by a notification on Tom's tablet. An encrypted message, the sender identifiable only by an emblem, an intertwined B and F. Tom opened it cautiously. "Greetings, Tom Law and team. We've been following your work closely. Your journey into the Florida Sasquatch Chronicles was enlightening. But are you ready for the greater mysteries that lie ahead? The redwoods of Santa Cruz Mountains beckon. Beware, for not everything is as it seems." Tom frowned. Who could this be from? A friend, a well-wisher, or a warning from someone with deeper knowledge? Farley looked uneasy. There's a lot we don't know about these creatures and those who seek them. We have to be careful. Amidst the sea of data, Mia stumbled upon an interesting tidbit. Did you know that globally, there are varying versions of Bigfoot-like entities? From the Yeren in China to the Almasti in Russia. The Yeti in the Himalayas and Yowie in Australia. This isn't just an American phenomenon. Tom, contemplative, responded, "It's a global tapestry of stories, tales, and legends. Different cultures, different names, but similar descriptions. There's a bigger picture here, and we're just beginning to piece it together." As hours turned into days, the motor coach wove its way across the country, the team busily preparing for the next chapter of their adventure. Every pit stop was an opportunity for Ricky to capture the vast and varied American landscape, and for Mia to liaise with contacts, gather resources, and refine plans. Farley, feeling a connection to the land, would often spend these stops reaching out to the local flora and fauna, sensing their energy, and trying to pick up any signs or hints of Sasquatch presence. As the motor coach approached the majestic Santa Cruz Mountains, the ancient redwoods stood tall, like sentinels of time. Their towering presence and dense canopies made it clear why this could be ideal Bigfoot territory. As the team set up camp at the foot of the mountain range, there was a palpable mix of anticipation and trepidation. What secrets did these woods hold? What tales would the tall ones of the Santa Cruz Mountains reveal? That night, as they sat around the campfire, the soft glow illuminating their faces, Tom raised a toast to the next chapter, to the Santa Cruz mysteries, and to the endless quest for knowledge. As the embers of the fire crackled and danced, the towering shadows of the redwoods seemed to whisper tales of the past, teasing the team with the adventures that lay ahead. The American Bigfoot Chronicles were set to continue, with the promise of unraveling even deeper secrets of the elusive Sasquatch. If you have enjoyed our paranormal scary story about the America's Bigfoot Chronicles, please visit us at Paranormal Untold Stories. Come to listen to more of our scary stories collection. Paranormal Untold Stories encourages you to contact us if you have your own untold story that you would like our professionals team to put online as a scary story. Thank you. Please follow our YouTube channel, Paranormal Untold Stories, and encourage others to do the same. Paranormal Untold Stories.